For a streamer, there's no sweeter shock to the system than having someone from your community donate you a fat stack of cash. Somebody that, for whatever reason, loves what you do and has money to blow, so they send you multiple $100 and sometimes $1,000 donations. All of a sudden, it's like you're living the Twitch dream. But there's also a dark side to Twitch donations that can be just as big a shock. One that can leave you in debt with nowhere else to turn. I'm talking about chargebacks. Alright guys, the story I'm about to tell you is absolutely insane, but before we get to that, I have to tell you to subscribe to the channel. Not only does it help us understand what stories you want to see, it helps us chase those stories down. So please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, and if you're gonna leave a comment about what record I have on the shelf, how my hair looks, or how I'm using my hands, honestly, I don't give a shit. Imagine somebody donating you 10 grand for no other reason than they just like your content. That shit is life-changing.
I'm done. I'm not gonna, nope. That's not what you're supposed to do with money! Why? $10,000!
Over the years, we've seen sporadic instances of wealthy donators dropping huge amounts of cash on unsuspecting streamers. Hell, we even covered one of those stories with a guy named Fatty Melon.
I get there, I do like 10-minute cardio just to warm up, and start everything.
Damn, you good?
I'm here to talk to you about when donations go wrong. When streamers end up on the hook for hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars. Now, I started looking into chargebacks after reading this insane Twitter thread from a Valorant streamer named Average Jonas, who ended up owing $5,400 because of this weird refund system. It's an absolutely wild story involving a fake heart surgeon and over 20 different donations. But before I walk you through his and a few other horror stories I've come across, let me just quickly explain what the hell a chargeback actually is. In the context of Twitch, a chargeback is when somebody who donated a streamer any amount of money decides to charge back that donation and basically refund their cash. Obviously, chargebacks exist for a reason. Maybe you got drunk one night and donated way more than you intended to, or maybe your kid took your credit card and blew $20,000 on their favorite streamers. My point is, humans make mistakes, and there's plenty of legitimate reasons as to why you'd want to refund your money. Now, if a chargeback is approved, and the key word here being approved, if a chargeback is approved by PayPal or any other third-party system that a streamer uses to accept donations, then the money is refunded and the streamer can potentially be hit with an extra charge of up to $20 per chargeback. But here's the thing. The chargeback system on Twitch is extremely easy to exploit. In a worst case scenario, somebody can donate large amounts of money to you multiple times in one stream and then charge back all of that money later on. Now, you might be wondering why the hell anybody would want to run a chargeback scam like this. Well, honestly, in the situations that I'm talking about here, it was all for clout and a good troll. And this is exactly what happened to the streamer Average Jonas, who I mentioned earlier.
The first thing was that this guy came into my stream and he started giving me like $100 and $200 donations. So never more than $200 or $300 in separate donations. And each time it was like, it felt really casual for him. Like, it's just like, oh, let's celebrate this guy. You know, this was like a positive message or something. He was pretending to be a 27-year-old heart surgeon just wanting to make the world a better place. And like, it's just insane.
Now, seemingly wealthy people making large donations on Twitch is becoming more and more common. Because on top of making a streamer's day and putting some good out into the world, you're also kind of chasing that sweet, sweet clout. Your name sits atop a streamer's donation leaderboard, you get a VIP tag, the community knows who you are, the spotlight is now on you. And with how popular some Twitch streamers are these days, that's a pretty big spotlight. Just ask Mr. Beast and Ninja.
Mr. Beast donates 1,000, says no healing. Okay, so we are already moving on to the
No gun.
no gun. No, which gun? All right, you didn't specify which gun I get to drop, so I'll just drop my gray pistol. Thanks, Beast.
And this idea of chasing clout is exactly what Average Jonas thinks that his fake heart surgeon donator was doing. And then the chargebacks started.
Basically, this person wanted, of course, exposure, because like my community grows a lot. You have like 70,000 people stopping by per day, so he gets a lot of attention for being this giving person, and you know, he gets the VIP tag. And then over time, of course, I start to get more and more worried, I'd say, because like the first donation suddenly got a refund request.
So the first donation gets a chargeback request, and obviously Jonas is confused. So he goes to the donator to ask what the deal is, and the donator says, "Hey, that's weird. That wasn't me." Basically saying, "I paid you that money in good faith. There shouldn't be a problem." And this kept happening. The donator kept telling stories of being a heart surgeon whose parents died in front of him, making these donations, charging them back later on, and then stringing Jonas along saying that it wasn't him, he doesn't know what the problem is. In total, this person donated over 20 times for a total amount of $5,400. But Jonas eventually realized that this was probably a scam, so he confronted the person.
So basically, he just kept on building a larger and larger scam. So after a while, when I started to realize this was probably a person who's like just lying straight to my face, I straight up just asked him for ID, somehow to like identify that you're a real human being and that you're telling the truth, because he was just talking about being a heart surgeon in this hospital and having a lot of money that he doesn't need and all that stuff, you know. And as soon as I asked him to reveal his identity, he just disappeared. He deleted his account on Discord, he deleted his Twitch account, but luckily I saved all the evidence first, because this was more than 20 donations.
Yeah, once they knew the jig was up, they just pieced the fuck out. And the worst part is, the thing that broke this story wide open for me is the fact that Jonas is not the first streamer this person has pulled this scam on before. This exact same fake heart surgeon thing, they've done it to multiple other people. According to Jonas, after he tweeted out about having to pay back this $5,400 and that he was being scammed, 10 other people reached out to him and said the exact same thing happened to them.
He was basically just scamming people left and right, and I also have received messages from more than 10 other streamers being scammed by the same person.
Now, I haven't been able to confirm all 10 stories, but one person did get back to me and they said yes, the same username scammed them. And then I found a streamer who has a tweet pinned basically saying that the same username that scammed Jonas also scammed them for $5,100. Okay, but how and why are these streamers left to pay back these insane amounts of money? It's because, again, depending on the third-party system you use to accept donations, there can be a window of 120 days to file a chargeback request. So, as a streamer, if you decide to spend that donation money, and then somebody decides to be an asshole and file a chargeback request on the 119th day of that window, you now have to cough up all of that money you just spent.
And that's why at this point now, I don't really use that money unless it's for like smaller things. And I make sure that there's like a buffer of $10,000 there. Like you should never have less than the highest donation you've received.
And remember, on top of having to pay back that donation amount, you now have to pay all of the fees from PayPal or whatever the hell service that you're using. And those can be up to $20 a pop. So even if you were smart about it and held on to that donation money just in case you did have to pay it back in a situation like this, you would still be on the hook for all of those PayPal transaction fees. And in the case of Jonas, that means an extra $400 you have to pay out. Now, thankfully, Jonas's story has a happy ending, because after his initial tweet gained some traction, Ninja stepped in and actually paid off that $5,400 charge. But unfortunately, situations like Jonas's are all too common. Hell, looking at the replies to his original tweet, I found 3 different anecdotal stories about streamers dealing with chargeback situations in the thousands of dollars. Take Twitch streamer Jordy as another example. Back in April, he got hit with a chargeback scam that left him on the hook for $5,100. Now, with no way to pay back that money, Jordy's community thankfully saved the day.
Clarity with the 143.12. My fucking man.
It's pretty screwed up that a donation scam can happen so easily like this, and one of the only solutions at your disposal as a streamer is to have your community donate their way out of your debt. And at this point you might be wondering, well, isn't there something streamers can do to fight back against this? And yeah, there is, kind of. Remember how I stressed the approval aspect of a chargeback request? Well, that's because you can dispute a chargeback as a streamer if you provide evidence that the donation that was given to you was actually intended to be given to you, or if you're lucky, you have evidence that these 20 different donations were actually a scam. This is why you see a lot of streamers write in their bios no refunds when it comes to donations. The basic thinking being that if you're upfront about it, you're making it very clear that, mistake or not, if you donate to me, that's it. Also, streaming services like Streamlabs provide a sort of chargeback protection where they'll dispute any chargebacks with PayPal or any third-party system on your behalf. But there's problems with this evidence-based approach as well. To continue using PayPal as an example, they often side with the consumer, and in a way that makes sense, because in a perfect world, if somebody has their credit card stolen, you want to believe them. So as soon as somebody claims a stolen credit card or fraud, a bunch of red flags are thrown up and the banks get involved. And once the banks get involved, it's more than likely that the chargeback request is gonna be pushed through. And at that point, there's not much you or Streamlabs for that matter can really do about it. The other big problem with this evidence-based approach is, as a Twitch streamer, what f***ing evidence do you have? It's not like you're selling a physical product that a customer can say they never received, which is a pretty typical reason for requesting a chargeback. You can't provide a proof of shipment, for example, because again, as a streamer, you're not selling a physical product. You're selling a service that in the case of donations, people aren't even actually buying.
And that's the thing, you know, first of all, in PayPal, when there's a refund, you have to go through a twist and you have to like explain your side of the story. And you have to explain how like, I didn't sell a product, but a service, right? Because my service is entertaining people and they're freely donating money. The problem with PayPal is that their terms of service are aimed towards online shops, but not towards the new digital entertainment era at all.
Honestly, it's pretty cool that Twitch has allowed for streaming to be a full-time gig for a lot of people. That's a job that didn't exist 15 years ago. But the problem is that you have this new type of job bumping up against an antiquated payment system and punishing people for doing absolutely nothing wrong. And when it comes to Twitch addressing this issue, they hold a very agnostic, very Twitch-like stance of, hey, we're just the platform, this isn't our problem. And so in the greatest irony of all, there's a ton of protection for the people who consume hours and hours of content, but very little protection for the people who actually create it. I was watching, there's a movie called The French Connection, came out in the 70s. It's a very famous cop movie. The director also directed The Exorcist. And it got me, and there's this whole scene where they need to tail this guy in a car. And eventually it goes wrong, obviously. And that got me thinking, Keith, is to like, if you or I had to like buddy up and tail somebody, if we'd be able to pull it off, because I think we'd be f***ed from the word go, you know, like.
Well, I'll say this, Devin. Of all the friends I have on this earth,
Yeah.
you're one of the better ones. But
Okay.
I'll tell you, I would never choose to do anything like that with you.
Fair enough. Would you choose just not to do that in general, or just specifically not with me? You know, like.
I feel like I could tail somebody pretty well, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure you would be the best comrade for that.
No, I'm a bit of a fucking clumsy goof, so they'd probably be onto me.
You'd like trip into the street.
yeah, crash into some boxes or some shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, good movie. Go watch The French Connection. It's on Crave for all you Canadian people.